Joe. Hey, Carl. What you guys were just talking about, those quick, sudden moves in the markets, everything you're watching, that's exactly the conversation here in Davos, Switzerland at the World Economic Forum. In fact, even people who aren't economists are weighing in on what this means for the economy and, more importantly, what that means on a broader scale. Earlier this morning, we caught up with the former Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. He had some thoughts about where the most dangerous places in the world are right now, and perhaps more importantly, what could happen and what could change if we continue to see these sharp upheavals in the global markets. He says that could lead to a rise in protectionism. Listen in.
In terms of where things stand in the world, what's the most dangerous issue facing the United States right now?
Well, the immediate issue, the most dangerous ones, are the ones connected with what we call the war on terror. The radical Islamic attempt to overthrow the institutions, first of the region and then of other countries. In long term, I would say it is the shift of the center of gravity of the world from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and how to adjust to that. And one that is beginning to worry me more and more is the relationship between the globalization of economics and the fact that the political consequences of that globalization are carried out by nation states, and how to bring those into relation to each other is a huge challenge.
What in particular has been most concerning?
Well, if the economics or the economic structure of the world really pays less and less attention to national borders, it operates on the basis of global incentives. The consequences of this, however, affect people who live in states. And whatever the consequences are, they ask their government either to help them or to protect them. So, and the political leaders' standing depends, in their perception, on the ability to deal with this. So then when you have a global recession, if we have one, which I hope we will not, then this is going to be an increasing problem.
You're talking about the rise of protectionism we've seen in America as well.
Well, the rise of protectionism, the concern with foreign investments, and the attempt to deal on a national basis, at least to some extent, with which will become global problems, or at least which in terms of the structure of the world are global.
Where do you think the biggest risks lie? Is it in America, or is it...
On protectionism? Mm-hmm. Well, it depends where first of all, it depends whether there's a recession. I'm not predicting a recession. That's not my field of competence. But if there is a recession, and if it spreads to other countries, then, of course, as an American, I'm most concerned with the American reaction.
What's your level of concern when you watch what's been happening?
Well, I'm a minuscule investor, so I have some concern. But I just think that that the underlying realities of a global economy with so many countries growing, I can't believe that a global recession can emerge out of speculative mistakes that were made a few years ago. But as I've said repeatedly, I'm not an economist.
He may not be an economist, but he is certainly someone who has seen what happens in the globe and has a very good idea of a lot of things. We got to talk to him about several other issues, including the sovereign wealth funds and whether or not he thinks these are good for the American economy, whether the American people should be concerned. He said it reminds him a lot of what was happening back when Japan was making so many purchases back in the 1980s. We'll have more from that part of the discussion with him later on Squawk on the Street today. But guys, overall, he seemed to have a fairly even keel. He said this time is very different than what we've seen in the past. You can't go back and look at past recessions or anything else because this is just a global market at this time. And so it's something you have to watch every minute to find out what's happening. Carl, back over to you.
On that note, Beck, thank you for that. Interesting stuff from Secretary Kissinger.